Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here, and it's time to review Civil War. This is the new film from Alex Garland, who I'm a fan of. You know, really mostly Ex Machina Annihilation. When he's operating in sci-fi mode, he's exploring some really interesting ideas. Then there was Men, which I think in terms of like the presentation, style, and the atmosphere was amazing. Love a bonkers movie, but ultimately that movie does fall short in terms of what it's actually saying. Civil War is by far his most mainstream film. Lots of guns, doesn't go freak mode at all. It imagines a world in the near future where the US has a civil war. Texas and California have teamed up. Obviously, the movie does not have a one-to-one reflection of our politics, and it doesn't really explore characters' individual political ideologies or the ideologies of any of these groups that are fighting at all. You can maybe argue, and I think I've heard Alex Garland say that there are hints at what certain sides represent. Perhaps the main one is that the president is said to shoot journalists on sight, and so we know he's a fascist, and so we can assume things about, you know, the people who are rebelling against him, I guess. But it remains vague on purpose. But at the core of the movie, it's about a group of journalists who are traveling south, aiming to go all the way to Charlottesville. And kind of like Annihilation, it has a sort of Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now structure where the characters go deeper and deeper into the pits of this war. You meet some side characters along the way that sort of shape the world that these characters are living in. What's sort of curious about the movie is that the main characters don't really seem to be grappling with their place in the world. I think that these side characters are more for us, the audience, to digest, because it doesn't really seem to influence the main characters at all. The film has a lot of points where you can approach it in terms of what it's saying or what conversations it wants to have. I think what it does best is comment on the horrific imagery that these characters are exposed to on a daily basis because of their jobs, and it comments on the images that we would be inundated with if this war was going on, and maybe even on the images that we're already inundated with about political conflicts. The movie even opens on some real-world footage, riots and police conflicts and other things that have happened in the USA. So it does want to be grounded in our reality. And I think mainly the movie just wants to suggest that this is a point that we could get to, and it would very much suck to get there. I don't know if that point goes that much deeper. If you're making a movie about, you know, the state of our division, extremism, and hyperpartisan mindsets, I don't know if it goes much further than just presenting the fact that we are divided. I think that wanting to haunt us over the potential for this war to happen is a noble goal. But this is also something I wonder if it betrays in the last act. The violence is less, you know, citizens fighting other citizens, and it's more like directly political. This type of violence is less haunting to me. As the end of the movie, this is supposed to be like the heart of the darkness. I think the presentation of the movie being so impressive and immersive comes dangerously close to feeling like some kind of fantasy of attacking DC. I don't think it wants to be a fantasy at all. Alex Garland very much wants to make an anti-war film. He's made that clear. And I will say the final image of this film, which I think is supposed to be haunting, didn't come across that way to me so much. I think it's a little weird how much it kind of loses in the spectacle. The main thing keeping it together for me was that the mentor-mentee relationship of Kirsten Dunst and Kayleigh Spaney I thought was compelling. I like that Kayleigh Spaney's character kind of represents a younger version of Kirsten Dunst, and she has to grapple with, like, what would she tell her younger self now, or would she, like, prevent herself from making certain decisions if she were to go back? Again, this is something I think doesn't come like full circle. I think it hints at dealing with these things a lot and then deals with them less and less as it goes along. I think all the performances here are very good. The budget on this movie allows it to go much bigger than Garland's previous films, but this one just had a little less flavor to it. I think about the layers of reflecting glass and the enclosed spaces in Ex Machina, the trippy psychedelic visuals of Annihilation, and the bright greens, the odd folk horror sets of Men. Like, these were just more striking to me. This movie certainly has its moments. It is nicely shot, but it does ultimately feel a bit more commercial in the presentation. The score, I think, is solid. I don't think it's as memorable, though, as what Jeff Barrow and Ben Salisbury have pulled off in Alex Garland's previous movies. The sound design is very immersive. I really like how sometimes it will cut out entirely. The gunfire felt very loud. It's not like bassy and cool like it is in a video game or most action films, it's like a big pop, and I think this movie had more realistic gun sounds, and I think that supports the film's goal of trying not to glamorize the conflict. The guns don't really sound sick. So overall, you know, this film had a lot of interesting ambitions, but the more I think about what it was trying to achieve, the conversations it was trying to have, how much I'm personally like taking from the movie, I think it definitely falls short. I thought it was a good experience to watch the movie though. I give the movie a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Which side of the nondescript war would you be on?